Greetings, Internet, and welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This will be episode 2, which is therefore turn 2 of my playthrough of Thermopylae. Now, a little caveat. Turn 1 was complete and utter, well, I wouldn't say total bollocks, I suppose. I got the units moving, but I did it in the sort of wrong way. If you look back at episode 1 on the description, I've actually put on there what I did wrong. I activated the units effectively incorrectly. I was activating a regiment of the Warsaw Pact, then a unit from NATO, and then back to a regiment for the Warsaw Pact, and so on. And I think that might have been a little bit of carryover from other games I've done in the activation. It's wrong. Now, it didn't really affect where the units would be anyway, so there's no point in me redoing that. But in this video, I'll be doing it correctly, which is you activate a whole for the Warsaw Pact division, and for the NATO, the whole brigade. So for that, what that actually means for the Warsaw Pact is that they will, when they activate their division, every regiment will have its own operations cycle. And then once they're all done, then it'll go to NATO to do theirs. So in a bigger game, because this is obviously quite a small scenario where you've got multiple Soviet divisions, you'll activate a whole Soviet division, then you'll activate a NATO brigade, then you'll activate a whole Soviet division, and then a NATO brigade. If the Soviets won the initiative, if it was the other way around, then it'd be the NATO brigade, and so on, rather than penny packets like I was doing in turn 1. As I say, overall effect, because there was no engagement between the two, doesn't really matter. The units are where they would want to be. However, in this turn, I should imagine there will be some engagement because the forces are obviously drawn closer. So we'll be going down to the map in a moment. If you could do your housekeeping, which is if you could like the video and subscribe if you really enjoy what I do, and any comments is much appreciated. Just on a side note, no one actually picked up, or if anyone picked up, didn't make a comment about the error I made in turn 1. So that leads me to either no one really knows, no one really wanted to comment, or people aren't paying that much attention. I don't know which one of those three it is. If you do know this game and you do see me make obvious blunders, let me know, because that's how I learn, and that's how other viewers will learn too. After that little tiny whinge, if anyone's actually watching out there and does know the actual correct sequence of play, let's move down to the map and see what's going on. Hey, so that's the current situation. We have some East German regiments approaching. One way over here. This one is designing to outflank the NATO forces. Maybe keep the NATO forces sweet over this side of the map. The victory conditions have been mentioned in the prior episodes. If you haven't seen those, please watch those, and you'll know what each side is trying to do. But the Soviets have the initiative in this turn, which means they have the initiative in the well, let me just bring up the actual sequence cards and go through this again on here. So there's no more there is reinforcements for the Soviets. That's a good point. They're getting the East German Armored Regiment coming in. So let me just go and get that. Okay. So yeah, there's the Tank Regiment or Armored Regiment coming in over here. Again, that's got 9 steps. So each Soviet regiment has 9 steps. There are 1, 2, 3, going to be 4 regiments on the board. That's 36 steps. That's quite a lot of strength. So they outnumber NATO by 3-1, but time is their main enemy. Okay, so that's the reinforcement step or reinforcement phase in the sequence. Okay, now we have the Warsaw Pact planning phase. This is what is the NATO don't have to do this. This is where the Warsaw Pact have to determine what each of their regiments are going to do for this turn. And this is the track that we use to show this. Okay, now again, if you were playing this two-player or multiplayer, the NATO player wouldn't see what you're planning to do here. So each division has its breakdown, and you put the counters on accordingly on here. And as the regiments are activated, you bring on the map, or you show what they're actually sequenced to do. So let's have a look what we're going to get each of these to do. Now, the units that are coming on, they're going to go and do a march operation. So that's the, as you can see, it says 4-4 EG. So that's the 4th Regiment of the 4th East German Division. So we're going to put them on march because they're coming in off board, so they need maximum movement points to get onto the map. And that costs no command points. Now, this regiment over here, we might as well keep them marching because we need them to get to around this area. So that is the 22nd Division. Let's just bring this back up. 22nd, it's already got march marker on it, so we're quite happy with that. Next up, we will have the 23rd. Now, that is quite close, but is it close enough to actually attack? 1, 2, 3, 4. No. So it might as well march as well. So that's the 23rd. So we've got a march on there. And then the last one is this one, the 24th. Now that is close enough to attack. So we will actually attack with that regiment. Now there's two means of attacking. There is a hasty attack, which includes movement. Well, both include movement, but the hasty attack includes more movement than the assault. An assault can use multiple regiments, but we will just be doing a hasty attack with the 24th. So we will mark that as such. So let's see if that, I have to go through, there we go, hasty. Gives them 6 movement points. It also tells you how many movement points each operation has on there. So if we just zoom a little bit in on that card. Okay, there we go. So if we were doing a reserve, we've got 3 movement points. If we were doing an assault, they have 3 movement points. But so we're doing a hasty attack, which gives them 6. Okay. So that's that done. The pre-planning. Let's bring back up the sequence of play. All right, we now do maneuver phase. So it rolls for initiative. Players alternate activation cycles. So if we were doing turn 3, we would now roll for initiative and see who would actually activate first in the maneuver cycle. But in this particular scenario, we know that the Warsaw Pact have the initiative, so they will be going first. Once we're in the maneuver phase, and this is where I was getting it wrong in the previous video, we have this activation cycle come into play. And in this activation, it says activate 1 division, Warsaw Pact, or brigade of NATO, or pass. Okay. The Warsaw Pact player only places a lead unit marker on each maneuvering regiment activated in the current cycle. Okay, so I think I've got to do that now for each actual regiments before we even start activate any cycle. I'm just going to check that though. Okay, this is why it's useful to read the errata rules, which you can find on BGG. They're like a living rule set, and it does clarify that kind of situation. Regarding rules, I mean, I read the rules completely through, well, for the learning scenario once, and then started playing, and it was making not not much sense when I was reading it. Once you start actually putting units on the board, start moving them, that things start to click into place a little bit. And then it's when you actually start to, I mean, I started rereading the rules, and that's how I picked up on the mistake I'd made. I thought, wait a minute, got starting back at the beginning of the rules again. It gets to that section. I thought, wait a minute, did that all wrong? You're doing it right this time. But now regarding the regimental lead units, these little counters here, they don't actually move. I moved them last game. Now we spent 1 command point for the this Warsaw Pact division, this East German division, and that was for this regiment. So I have to give a lead unit marker to one of these, and that marker doesn't move. That allows me to activate anything within 3 hexes of that hex. If I had other units that could be activated, such as independent battalions or things like engineers and such forth. We don't have any of that in this game, but I still need to place that, and that costs me the command point. There is no command point track for the Warsaw Pact divisions, because you spend them as in the planning phase, whereas NATO does have tracks for its command points because they spend theirs ad hoc, would might be the best way to say it. Now, each of these other march battalions do have a lead regiment as well, but they don't actually have to be in command range of their HQs, because they do not spend a command point at this point. But there we go. We put the lead units on, and that was the next step on there. Places a lead unit marker on each maneuver regiment. Actually, now the reason why I was querying that wasn't on my card, my little one here. So that must be an errated card, which they've put into the vassal module, which then corresponds with the living rules version of the rules, which is on the BGG's website, and it could be on the Compass Games website. I advise getting that. It doesn't have all the examples of play in it, but it has all the errata, and it's the rules that will be going forward into the next game, which I think is called Fifth Corps. However, that takes us down to the redeploy, which we don't use because that's, as it says, it's hidden mode only, which is the proper solo way of playing this game. I'm not doing hidden mode at the moment because there's about another 8 pages to read, and I'm just learning how to actually move units on the map at the present moment. We now go into the reconnaissance segment, which we didn't do last time because I didn't think there was any need, and I probably should have done that in the first turn, because there could have been some things that artillery could have fired and such forth. But we will now do some reconnaissance, and let's explain what that actually does. So, quoting directly from the rules, it says all HQ units have a reconnaissance point allowance printed on the counter. So if we look at this HQ over here, as it blows up, it's the one in the white circle there. So it's got 2 reconnaissance points. The other one over here only has 1. Now, these points allow units to spot enemy units so they can determine the strength, and also use them to be targeted by artillery. To use these reconnaissance points, and the Warsaw Pact in this scenario have no off-board reconnaissance points, whereas NATO do. The unit that is used to spot must be within command range of the HQ that is spending the reconnaissance point. So in this situation, we want this unit to spot, it's going to be in command range of that HQ. Okay, which it is. The command range of the HQ is 10. So that's within 10 hexes, and that unit can then spot these units. Okay, because it's measured in range. Now, the way I'm visualizing that is either there's some form of electronic surveillance, or there are little recon vehicles that have gone up this close from that particular unit. And the further to spot will make it harder. Sorry, the further from the spotting unit to the target unit makes it harder to actually find out and acquire the target. Okay, so we've got to spot units to be able to bring artillery fire onto them. But we don't need to, so we need to acquire the hex. But we don't need to acquire the hex to be able to make it an objective of the hasty attack. But we want to soften these guys up, if possible, with some of our artillery. So has our artillery got the range? Not great, but it can move before it fires. So, okay, so let's do some recon. Now, reconning into a city, which, well, these are, this is a city hex, is a bit tricky, but the unit's close enough to be able to maybe do it. Or is this a better target? I think actually that might be a better target. So let's do that one. Let's spend one recon point to try and acquire that US unit there. So we determine the range from the spotter. Okay, and it tells me that's a range of 7. We look at the terrain that the unit is in, and that's light woods. So at a range of between 6 to 10 hexes, the Warsaw Pact player would need to roll 7 or higher to be able to acquire that target. So it says on the procedure, cross-reference the row for terrain and the column of range from spot to target hex to find the acquisition value, which we've just determined is 7. Okay, it says unless the acquisition value is NA, meaning the target hex cannot be acquired, expend a reconnaissance point for an active HQ or a superior NATO. Well, we're doing it from an active HQ, so we're doing it from this HQ here. And that is on the, make sure I get the right track. That's a NATO track. Warsaw Pact track. Pause for a second, make sure I get the right. It's the planning card. Yeah. Still learning. So, okay. This is where we've got the reconnaissance points. And it is the forward. It is the forward HQ. So recce for the 4th EG, recce for the main 4th EG. So there we go. So we just suspend a point there to do that particular hex. There. So the unit that's spotting is that one. It's got to be within command range of that HQ, which it is. And then you determine the range from that unit to the unit you want to spot, which is there, which was 7, which gives you in the light woods a 7 required on the die roll. There are no die roll modifiers. I mean, there are a list of modifiers, but none that actually apply in this. So we need a 7. Now, I was just about to press that button. This is why I've got the blinking dice here. I have mentioned I am playing this against another guy. He's playing the Soviets, I'm playing the NATO. And we're playing that by email, so therefore I had to use the button. So this is so it's a 7 or higher. Now, is that a 0 or 10? I think that's a 10. I better double check. Because I'm playing into the woods where a 0 is a 0, which is the great battles in the Civil War. And this is all right. So the game consists, for all game purposes, a 0 results treated as a 10. I wish they'd actually supplied the dice. I mean, this is the dice that are supplied in the game. You can get so many dice now with D10s which actually have the number 10 on it. And then you would have none of that little delay I had there. Anyway, I'm waffling on. So yes, that hex is now acquired. And that will get an acquired marker, which now I've got to find. I'm going to pause while I look for these counters. Actually, that only took a few seconds. So that hex has now been acquired and can be targeted. Now the same, so that hex can't be attempted again. So if that acquisition failed, it couldn't be attempted again in this recon phase. Okay, so that's good. Let's see if this unit can be acquired. Now, what I'm not sure is if that unit can also attempt it, or it's got to be a different unit. Let me just double check that rule. Yes, the same unit can spot. So I actually think, yeah, we're going to go for this unit here. Actually, if we can soften that up, because the armor, I don't think we're going to be involved with it this turn. But who knows? But anyway, so again, we determine the range from there to there. I mean, yes, I can count hexes, but there we go, 5 hexes. But that is in a city. In a city requires a 9. That's quite high. Well, we just got that, so let's see if we can spot that hex. 9 required. No. So on our little display, that's the NATO one. Lots of little charts and tables. Okay, so that is now complete. We don't want to zoom it out, but we still have this unit. This HQ here has also got one that's the main HQ has got one recon point. So we can't attempt that hex again. Is this unit within 20 of that? Probably. Looks like it, but who knows? That's within 12. There we go. So it will now try and spot that armor then. So the range to the armor is 7, and that's in clear. So within 11 to 20, no, within 7, it needs a 4 or higher to be spotted. 5. So that is acquired as well. And bringing up that chart again, that concludes the amount of recon points that division has this turn. Right, whew, got there in the end. So that's the recon phase. Okay, reconnaissance segment. Now we have the strike segment. Execute fire. So the artillery we have for the East Germans is there, and they've got a rocket launcher there. Now, are any of those in range of the acquired targets? I don't think. Now, also what the acquired target would do, again, if I was playing this against someone, the NATO player would now have to reveal how many steps were in those counters, and if it was a dummy or not. So that's the other purpose of the acquisition, not just that you can strike at it with off-board with artillery or aircraft or anything like that, but it also reveals if it's real and the strength of the unit. I don't think anything's in range of our artillery at the present moment, but let's just check. So that one, oh, that is bang on 11. So that is in range. Well, let's fire then. How do I do that? I have no idea, because it's the first time I've done it. I've read the rules, but this will be the first time I've actually fired a unit in anger. Okay, so each artillery can fire once per turn, effectively, offensively. So it can do a fire strike, or it could help in the attack. That's in the offensive phase when we're launching our attack into this area down here. But I want to use the artillery, see how it works. So we will be firing this which we just determined at this unit here. How effective that fires, I have no idea. We will find that out. It's just in range. Now, to do a fire strike, which is what we're doing now, we're in the strike segment. It's got to be a calling HQ. Well, the HQ is sitting right next to it. Okay, and an observing unit. Now, the observing unit has got a little code there. It says COC inactive. So, looking at the chart, COC inactive means any unit in the calling HQ's chain of command that is activating in the current activation cycle. So, this unit is activating in the current activation cycle and is active. So, that's the unit that's assisting this artillery shot coming down. And maximum 2 artillery units can fire in this, right? Well, we're only firing 1. Okay, so that's you looking what's called the Warsaw Pact fire support chart. All right, so that determines that I am allowed to do this shot. Okay, get in there. So there's a fire strike procedure. The active player uses the following procedure to execute a fire strike. 1, declare the target hex for the strike by placing a strike target marker on the hex. So we've got to find now the strike target marker. All right, I'm assuming it's one of these. Strike target marker, Warsaw Pact. Right, okay, so we've done that. Declare the active HQ making the fire call. Well, that's this one at the top here. So I've got the rule books in one hand. Hold on there. So it's this one here. Sorry for the long pause there. That was me drinking a coffee and reading the rules. So the combat results, I roll the die. High is good. We know that the current modifier, we know that this is 7. We've rolled a 6, which is no additional modifier. So it's 7 hits that have been inflicted on that unit. Okay. So the first thing is we look at its defense value and then see how many times that goes into what we just hit with, and that will determine the damage. The woods gives the light woods increases that defense value by 1, so its defense value is 4. The first 4 out of that 7 hits we don't require will require a step loss. The next 4 doesn't go into 7, so there's no additional loss. So that unit took a step loss from that artillery strike. Okay. Also, if there had been more than 1 unit in that hex, it would have been the weakest unit that would be affected. It's always the weakest surviving unit. I'm assuming that's based on its defense strength. After this shot, it's also placed a disrupted marker on top of all surviving units whose adjusted defense strength is less than or equal to the original number of hits inflicted. I'll have to double check what that means. Okay, so reading the rule from the rule book rather than the chart. Okay, so the charts are there to help you play the game once you know it really, but you do have to refer to the rules as you learn it. So each time a fire strike is made, the defending player compares the original hit total, which was 7, inflicted to the adjusted defense strength of each separate unit in the target hex. Defense strength is 4, adjusted because of the woods. If a unit's adjusted defense strength is less than or equal to the hit total, which it is, the unit is disrupted. So we determine that unit is disrupted and obviously takes a hit. Okay, so I've marked the artillery as fired. Little fired marker. I'm not going to fire the rocket launcher. I'm going to keep that back to see if we can help the assault. So let's remove the strike. The quiet style, and this unit has now got a disrupt marker on it as well. What the exact effects of disrupt are, well, we'll see as we go through. So it's just Actually, I'm going to keep that to the side. Sometimes looking for these markers is right. Okay, so that concludes the strike segment. We now do the operations segment, and it says any order desired. See the operation summary chart. Okay, so we've got march operations and hasty attack operation. I think we should start with the march operations, get them done, then we can focus because NATO can't interrupt. So what we're going to do is move these units. They've got 6 movement points, and we want to get them as far this way as possible. Okay, so let's start with the 22nd Regiment. All right, so it's got 6 movement points during its march. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Roads don't really help here, do they? Actually, I'm going to restart that one because I want to get to about here-ish. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not ideal, but we don't want to be coming along here. We want to be coming, let's say, towards whatever that town is, Munchenstadt. Okay, and then this unit will follow it. So the lead unit marker remains behind. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So that's that. And then remember, we've got to flip them over. Flipped so that they have actually moved. Okay, so that's the 22nd. Okay, now the 23rd, which is this one here, I want to be attacking in and around this area, here to here. So it's got march at the moment, so let's go for it. All right, so 1, Lightwoods is 1, 2, using the road, 3, 4, 5. Let's use the heavy woods as cover, 6. Okay, and then all right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so again, using the heavy woods as cover because we know how effective, we've just seen how effective artillery is against some unit in the light woods. Right, so that's those 2 regiments completed. Let's move the HQ assets. They activate under march, so again 6 movement points. Last turn they only had 3 because that was a special rule, but now they've got 6. So 1, 2, 3, and I want to get these guys into a wood as well. 4, 5, yeah, 4, 5, 6. Just from a safety point of view, and it also makes it harder to be acquired. Yeah, sort of learned that one from that there. Okay. Now the artillery that's fired can also move. I think we need to move it closer to the front. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. All these HQs and artillery assets, they can't do any hasty attacks. They can only move as part of a march. So let's get these guys going as well. So it's 1 back onto the road, 2, 3, 4. I'm quite happy with them hanging back a little bit. Don't want them too close. So flip that and the rocket launcher. All right, so that's, then we'll bring on the last regiment. Now, where do we want that armor? Coming down the middle to support both of these mechanized infantry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stacking limit for the Warsaw Pact is 9 steps. There's your 9 steps sitting there. Right. Let's just flip those over to show they've moved. And that then brings us to these boys. The 24th Regiment, who we're going to have doing a hasty attack. Now, the question is, who are we going to have as the objective? Okay, I'm in two minds here, because we could make this the objective hex, this the objective hex, or even this one. Now, this one here is disrupted, so I'm assuming that will have some form of negative effect on it in combat. Yes, I could read it in detail and spend another half an hour reading the rules, but I'm assuming there will be a negative effect on it. So I'm thinking that will be the objective. Now, to get there means I've got to go through some zones of control. So that will allow us to show things such as, oh, I've forgotten the actual word, part where you can actually move through a zone of control if there's units in these hexes. So we'll go through that and I'll get the right bloody word. Okay. Protected is the word I was looking for. So you can move through a protected hex in a zone of control, and then disruption, the effects of. Okay, so disrupted unit is immediately flipped to its use side. So it can't be used for an operation in this turn. Okay, so I didn't do that, so that was useful checking that up. The fire strength of a disrupted unit is halved when executing defensive, infiltration, or retreat fire. That's useful. A disrupted unit cannot retreat and prohibits the retreat of any other friendly unit in the same hex, which is also interesting. And a disrupted unit cannot be split or combined. So there doesn't seem to be any direct effect on the combat other than he can't get out of it, which is an interesting thing to know about. Okay, so we're going to be doing a hasty attack operation. So let's bring up the chart here, and it goes through the hasty attack operation cycle. Declare participating regiments and task force. Well, for us as the Warsaw Pact, this is the regiment. So it's the 24th Regiment. The next step, okay, and objective hex. We've got to set an objective hex. And I'm assuming there is an objective marker somewhere. There we go. Objective hex marker Warsaw Pact. And we're going to stick that on that unit there. So that is the objective of this particular attack. Okay, so the next thing is move Warsaw Pact Regiment 6 movement points, and the first half movement points can use road movement. All right, and this is where we're going to do some splitting of the unit, because we want to definitely move through that hex there into that hex there to conduct the attack on that unit there. That will require something left in that hex to allow us to do that. Darn it. Okay, so I've got in my mind how protective fire works. Protective movement, sorry. Yeah, I got it wrong. Okay. Protective movements, which I was trying to do here, unfortunately doesn't apply. If I thought if I got a unit into there, then any subsequent unit can move into there without risking infiltration fire. Well, that's not quite how it works. For a start, This is when a maneuver unit occupies close terrain. Now, close terrain, as I just again found out, is woods, heavy woods, and city hexes. So that is not close terrain. So even if I was in there and started in there, it can't do protective movement. It wouldn't allow other units to move beyond it. Okay. The other thing is, for it to count, the unit can't have activated in that turn. So this unit of mine is going to be moving down there, is activated, or isn't actually part of this activation. So in both cases, I can't do protective movement. So my choices are, do I change the objective hex from there to there, or do I risk what's called infiltration movement? When you move from an enemy zone of control, so the unit moving through an enemy zone is subject to infiltration fire. There's no additional movement cost to enter or exit X in an enemy zone of control, but I would suffer, or that Soviet unit would suffer, infiltration fire. Or change the objective hex. I really wanted to hit that US unit. Well, the only way I'm going to find out about infiltration fire is to do it, isn't it? Okay. So we can move now, as the Warsaw Pact, they can move as hasty movement or hasty attack. Let's put that at the bottom. Right. So that'll be 1 movement point, 2 movement points. They can move the first 3 movement points on the road. So that's 2.5. Now we want to move from that hex there to there. So let's do that. So that means we'll take infiltration fire from that unit, I believe. Let's just double check that. Okay, I just want to change something as well. All right, so let's just take that back there for the moment. We're still going to be doing that. We're going to move this unit into here first. All right, and then we're going to add some of those steps into this unit here. So let's increase that 1, 7, 8. And then decrease this one's strength to 1. Okay. Then they're going to move on together. So far the whole stack is starting from there. They combine 1, 2. Oh, blimey, that's 2, 3 by road. And then the big stack will move from there to there for 4 movement points. Right. That's how I think I want to do it. Now let's continue looking at the infiltration fire rules. So first of all, I'm looking, so the actual shot occurs as this unit here. Let me just zoom a little bit in on this action here. Oops, gone too far. There we go. So this unit here fires when this unit moves from there to there. So currently it's sort of in that hex because it could take a result that keeps it in that hex. If that hex we just moved from had been clear, the infiltration fire would have been doubled, but it's not. So this unit here has got a fire strength of 1. It's not great, is it? Multiplied by 2. So it's only got a fire strength of 2. I then go to the fire effects combat results table. So it says, determine the basic fire strength of each firing unit by multiplying its attack strength by the number of steps. So it's 2. Modify each unit's fire strength for all other terrain effects. None. Add the modified fire strength of all units. There's only the 1 unit. Divide the total by strength by 2. So it's down to a strength of 1 to determine the fire effect strength. The fire effect strength is 1. And then we add the hit modifier. So then he's really high on this dice. A 6 is no modifier. So then we look at that 1 against that defense value of 3, which is modified by +1 for the woods is 4. That's no effect, effectively. So that unit gets to that hex successfully, leaving 1 strength point behind in there. All right. So that's the movement step, because that's as far as they want to move. We're not playing with any jamming. There's no EWS that's in this particular scenario. Reaction step. Inactive player can move 1 force eligible to react into the objective hex. NATO player expends 1 CP to react. Okay. So they could react with that unit or that unit. Let me check the reaction rules. Well, first of all, I want to check to make sure the disruption of this unit will not affect that unit that I want to react in it. Well, it will. It itself won't be disrupted, but if they're forced to retreat, they will not be able to retreat because anything that's in there cannot retreat because the hex has got disruption in it. But we want to react with that force there. So to be able to react, a couple of steps. So can react with a force from 1 hex. So they're going to start from that hex, that's fine. They must belong to the same brigade, which they do because there's only 1 allied brigade involved. Then they must be within the command range of their brigade HQ, which is here. It's got command range of 10, so it's definitely within command range. When a unit reacts, it moves with a movement allowance of 3 movement points and can use minimum movement to enter an adjacent hex. Well, that's what they're going to be doing. They're entering an adjacent hex. So in they go. That's it, effectively. So any unit that reacts into the objective hex of an enemy operation can participate in the defense fire in the ensuing, got there in the end, defensive fire set. However, the reaction player pays a penalty for reaction. Hits inflicted by enemy offensive fire into an objective hex reinforced by reaction cannot be absorbed by retreat. So we can't. Well, we know we can't retreat anyway because they are disrupted. The infantry in there. So that's the penalty. If they were disrupted, they still couldn't be absorbed by the retreat. So next step. We have done that. We've just done the reaction step, defensive fire call step. 1 inactive HQ with an eligible observer can make a fire call to 1 artillery unit. Okay. So do we want to bring some defensive fire with the artillery? Because we've got these guns here. And then I think we're going to keep those ready for the NATO fire back. So let's not overcomplicate this one at the moment. Okay, so the defensive fire step. Execute defensive fire against participating, absorb hits and such forth. Okay, so we will be doing that now. And that's where we got to work out what they are firing back defensively with. Okay, so I'm not going to bring any artillery in. We're going to do some defensive fire here. Now we've got a disrupted unit, so its defensive fire value is halved. So if we look at that Bradley unit, it's got a defensive value of 4. So, sorry, a fire value of 4. Okay, so it's that 4 there. Multiply the amount of steps is 2. So that is 8. I don't know if the terrain has any 8 fire. We're firing into a light woods, no additional effect. So it stays at 8. Then it's halved because it's disrupted, so it's back to 4. Then we add on the Abrams, which is 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, added to the 4 from the infantry, which is 22, and then we half that. Everything is called the rule of half, or the rule of divide by 2, or something in here. So that total, so let's just go through that. So it's 9 times 2 from the Abrams, is 18. Then we've got the 4 times 2 is 8 from the Bradley, but that 8 is then half because they're disrupted is 4. 4 plus 18 is 22, and then you half the whole lot for 11. So the combat strength is 11. Then we roll the dice on the combat results table. Okay, again, high is good. 9. That's plus 2. So 11 plus 2 is 13. So 13 is the hit number that is affecting that unit. Okay, so it's in the light woods, so that's 4. So how many steps will that lose? Ouch. That's going to hurt because they're all going to be taken by step losses. So this unit here, the effective target is 13, so total modified attack strength 13. So this is going to take 3 actual losses. 3 times 4 is 12. So that goes down by 3. Ouch. Hadn't taken into effect. I mean, the die roll helped. Ouch. Okay. I better keep track of these. So that's 3 Warsaw Pact losses, step losses in this whole action so far, and 1 from the artillery. Okay, so now we do offensive fire, which uses the same sort of procedure. We have now how many remaining? 5 steps remaining. 5 times 3, 15. There is no, that's halved, 7.5. Yeah, it's not great, is it? 5 times 3 is 15. Yeah. Just double check, make sure there's no terrain effects. There isn't, I don't think. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, but the only way you learn is by doing, isn't it? Okay, so there's light woods. Yeah, there's no terrain effects in the actual combat. Right. So it's 15, half to 7.5, which is 7. Plus 2, that's minus 2. Goes to 5. Okay. Which looks, in this case, at the strongest unit. Remember the artillery affected the weakest? This affects the strongest. But let me just double check that. Yes, by bringing in those Abrams, definitely or significantly increased the defense strength of that hex. So it is the strong. So artillery hits the weakest unit for hits. Fire affects the strong, direct fire like this affects the strongest unit. And the total number of hits there wasn't enough to cause an actual loss. So that's it. On for the combat phase, I think. Offensive fire call step. We could have brought in the artillery, the rocket artillery we haven't used yet, but I think we might keep that for the NATO phase. There is no retreats. There is no advance. Flip participating units to their use side, which I think is it. Now, I believe that NATO unit is also, now it's done movement there. I think that's flipped as well, but I'll double check that. So that was expensive for the Warsaw Pact. And then again, I suppose, you know, Bradley's running straight into Abrams. I suppose that's what you'd expect, isn't it? Okay, so that's that done. We can remove that marker because that's done. Like that. The acquired stay, disruption stays. Right, let me just record the victory points so far. Yeah, all reacting units are flipped to their use side. There we go. So they're all used. The Warsaw Pact are all used. So that concludes the Warsaw Pact activation cycle. So currently on here, Warsaw Pact got 1 VP from that artillery strike, and NATO got 3 VP from that very successful defensive fire, taking out 3 steps from that regiment. Lessons learned. All right, let's just clear all the mood markers out the way. And we will then, so going back on here, we've completed the hasty attack cycle. So we now go back to the activation cycle, where we now got the NATO. They will now become active, but that will be in the next video. Let me bring this back up to the top. Wow, that took a bit of time. For you guys, it'd probably be a lot shorter, but referring to, well, the rules, the charts and tables, and the playbook. Yeah, but I think we got there. Any mistakes or errors, let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed playing it. It was a bit of a mind puzzle of what sequence goes where. If I was playing again where that armored unit was in close reaction, boom, definitely stumped that attack. It's a learning curve for me, and hopefully you'll see it's a learning curve. I wouldn't rush Warsaw Pact infantry there. They probably need to be led a little bit by some armor themselves. We shall see. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. If you didn't enjoy it, click the like button anyway. It just helps the channel out. Let me know in the comments. And if you really enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. You're more than welcome. And again, it all helps the channel. But until next time, play games, have fun, buy internet,